The planet was cold, not just cold, deadly cold. Ice covered the land like a thick white blanket. The sky was gray. The wind screamed through the air, pushing snow in every direction. In the middle of that storm, a small alien child sat alone. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes too big for her face, and her tiny body shook with every gust of wind. She wore nothing but thin rags. Her fingers were turning purple. Her tears froze on her cheeks before they could fall. She wasn't just cold, she was dying. Next to her lay the still body of a larger alien woman. Her arms were around the child, but she was no longer moving. Snow covered half of her face. She had protected the child until her last breath. "Mama." The child whispered. Her voice was soft, cracked, almost too weak to hear. But there was no answer. She pressed her small body closer to her mother's, hoping for warmth. There was none. Her mother's body was frozen, still, gone. The wind howled louder. The storm was getting worse. The child cried harder, but no one heard. Or so she thought. Far away, through the white mist, a figure moved. It was tall, wrapped in thick clothing, and walking slowly through the storm. The figure stopped, pulled out a small device, and checked the signal. A red dot blinked on the screen. The figure looked up. "I'm close," the human whispered to himself. His name was Jackson Wells, a human explorer sent to study weather patterns on this forgotten planet. He had received a strange distress signal. The message was broken, but one word was clear: help. He didn't expect to find anything in this storm. But then he saw something in the snow, a small shape. Two shapes. He ran forward. The child saw the strange figure coming toward her. She tried to move, but her body was too weak. Her legs didn't listen. Her arms felt like stone. Then the shadow stopped in front of her. Jackson fell to one knee. He pushed back his goggles and looked at the child. His eyes widened. "Oh my God." He breathed. The child's lips were blue, her eyes wide with fear. She was barely alive. He pulled off his backpack and quickly opened a survival blanket. He wrapped it around her tiny body and lifted her gently from the ground. "It's okay," he said softly. "I've got you. You're going to be okay." But the child didn't understand his words. She trembled in his arms and looked up at him with fear. Her lips moved. "Please, no cages," she whispered in her alien tongue. Jackson didn't understand, but he heard the fear in her voice. He turned to look at the frozen body lying in the snow. The woman was gone. He closed her eyes with care and whispered, "I'm sorry I was too late." The child cried quietly as he carried her away from the body. Jackson moved quickly. The storm was growing stronger. He reached his small shelter, just a metal pod with heat and food supplies. Inside, he placed the child near the heater and gave her water. She looked around, scared and confused. Jackson sat on the floor across from her. He didn't touch her. He didn't speak. He just showed her the food slowly and waited. After a long moment, the child reached out with shaking fingers and took a bite. She was starving. Jackson watched her eat. His heart ached. Who left her out there? Why was she alone? He looked at the communicator on his wrist. Still no signal. Still no help coming. Then the child whispered again, looking at him with wide, scared eyes. "Mama, dead?" Jackson paused. He understood that word. He nodded slowly, sadly. "Yes, I'm sorry." She looked down and didn't speak again. Silence filled the room like ice. Suddenly, Jackson heard something outside. A sound. Footsteps. Heavy, crunching the snow. He stood up fast and turned off the lights. He looked at the child. Her eyes were full of fear again. She knew that sound. She began to cry again, but not from the cold. "They found me," she said. Jackson grabbed his weapon. "Who?" he asked, but she only shook her head, crying harder now. "They will take me back. They always come." The wind screamed louder. The footsteps stopped just outside the shelter. And then A knock. Jackson raised his weapon. Who was out there in the storm? And why were they looking for this child? Asterisk. The knock echoed like thunder in the small metal shelter. Jackson didn't move. The child held her breath. Her eyes locked on the door. Outside, the storm screamed. Snow hit the metal walls like angry fists. Another knock. Slower. Louder. Then silence. Jackson stepped toward the door with his weapon raised. He pressed his ear to the cold metal. Nothing. Just wind. He waited. 1 minute. 2. Then he slowly pulled the metal lever, opening the door just a crack. Nothing was there, only darkness, snow, wind, but something felt off. Like the shadows were watching. He shut the door quickly and locked it. "We're not safe here," he said quietly. The child sat curled in a corner, still wrapped in the emergency blanket. Her big eyes were filled with fear, but not because of the cold. "Who's out there?" Jackson asked. The child didn't speak. Instead, she stared into the heater's flame. Jackson sighed and placed a warm drink near her. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. "My name is Jackson. I'm a human." She looked up at the word. "Human?" He nodded. Yes, for the first time, her face relaxed just a little. Like the word meant something to her. Then her tiny voice whispered, "My mama said, humans are kind." Jackson blinked. "She did?" The child nodded, eyes filling with tears again. "She said, if everything is lost, maybe a human will come." She looked at him like she wanted to believe. Jackson crouched beside her. "I came." Her lower lip trembled. "Are you real?" He smiled gently. "I think so." She stared for a moment, then reached out and touched his gloved hand. It was a quiet moment, small but full of trust. Jackson slowly fed more fuel into the heater. The soft orange fire warmed the shelter. The child leaned closer, her skin finally losing its blue tint. But outside, the storm still roared. Jackson turned on his scanner. Still no help, still no signal. He checked the time. Night would last for 12 more hours. They were stuck. The child's voice broke the silence. "Your fire is warm, like home." Jackson smiled again. "It's human fire. We like to be warm." She looked at him, blinking. "We were not allowed fire." "They said we don't deserve it." He frowned. "Who said that?" She looked down. Jackson didn't push. Instead, he gave her a small piece of dried fruit. She ate slowly, like it was gold. Then she spoke again. "They took everything, even her name." Jackson looked at her. "Whose name?" "My mama." He felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. "What's your name?" he asked gently. The child hesitated. Then, in a whisper, "Sorry." "Sorry." Jackson repeated. "That's a beautiful name." She nodded once, quietly. Then her small hands clutched his jacket. "I'm scared," she said. "They might come again." "Who?" Jackson asked, but she didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the door. "I don't want to go back in the cage." He froze. "Cage?" She nodded, tears running down her cheeks. "They put us in metal boxes, Mama too. She escaped. But I think they punished her." Jackson's hands tightened around his weapon. Who were these people? Why was a child caged on this frozen world? He looked outside the small window. Snow was still falling, but something moved. Far in the white, missed a blinking red light. Jackson narrowed his eyes. Not natural. He pulled out his binoculars and zoomed in. It was a tracking drone. Military. Not human. "Damn." "Eat," he whispered. The girl noticed his face. "They found us?" He nodded slowly. "Not yet, but they will." Sari crawled back into the blanket. "What will they do to me?" she asked, voice shaking. Jackson looked her in the eyes. "Nothing. As long as I'm here, no one touches you." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she said something he didn't expect. "Will you be my fire?" Jackson blinked. "What?" She pointed at the heater. "My mama said, fire is safety. Fire means hope. Fire means someone is with you." Then, She looked up at him again. Will you be my fire? Jackson felt his throat tighten. He nodded. Double quotes, yes, sorry, I will. Suddenly, the scanner beeped. Multiple signals. Closing in. They were running out of time. And Sari's past was catching up. Fast. Sari was asleep. Her tiny body lay curled near the heater, wrapped in the human's jacket, her breathing soft and slow. Jackson didn't sleep. He sat near the door with his weapon in his lap, eyes wide open, listening. The storm outside had started to calm, but that wasn't good news. Storms were noise. Storms were cover. Silence meant they could now hear and be heard. Suddenly, a soft sound came from outside. Crunch. Jackson froze. Another step. Crunch. He moved to the small side window and slowly lifted the edge of the curtain. Outside, in the pale moonlight, the snow looked like a white ocean. Then he saw it. Footprints, fresh, deep, and not human. He swallowed hard. These tracks were long, clawed, and heavy. Each step was wide apart. Whoever it was big, strong, and it was moving around the shelter. He grabbed his scanner. No signal, no warning, just static. He turned it off. Technology wasn't going to save him tonight. Sari stirred behind him, sensing something. Jackson turned, her eyes opened slowly. They're here, aren't they? He nodded, I think. So. Sari sat up, clutching the blanket tightly. They never stop. Even in storms, even in sleep, they always come. Jackson crouched near her. You need to stay quiet. Hide behind the crates. Can you do that? She nodded fast, her body already trembling. She crawled behind the supplies in the corner and disappeared from sight. Jackson turned back to the door. No more sounds now. Whoever was out there was waiting. Suddenly, something hit the side of the shelter. Bang! The walls shook. Then, again, bang! Jackson raised his weapon. A voice came through the wall, low, scratchy, and cold. Hand over the girl. Or freeze with her. Jackson's heart pounded. He stepped closer to the door, but didn't open it. What do you want with her? He shouted. The voice laughed. She is marked. She belongs to the cold ones. She is property. Jackson's eyes narrowed. Not anymore. No answer. Just silence. Jackson checked the power levels. The heater would last maybe 2 more hours. If they waited him out, he'd freeze. If he opened the door, they'd take Sari. No good options. Suddenly silence again. He peeked through the window. No one. But something on the snow caught his eye. More footprints. Dozens, not just one hunter, not just a few, a pack. Surrounding them, Jackson backed away, breathing hard. Behind him, Sari whispered, "They bring the beasts with them." He turned. "What beasts?" She looked at the wall. "They look like animals, but they're not. They listen, they hunt, they obey." Jackson understood now. This wasn't a random attack. This was a hunt, and Sari was the prey. "I need to lead them away from you," he said. "No," she cried. "They'll kill you." Jackson shook his head. "Not if I make them chase me." He picked up his bag and loaded a flare gun. He opened a hatch at the back of the shelter, stepped out silently, and shut it behind him. The cold slapped his face like knives. His boots crunched in the deep snow. He moved fast, leaving his tracks on purpose, leading them away. After 50 meters, he fired the flare into the air. The red light exploded like fire in the sky. A loud howl answered it, then another. Jackson smiled grimly. "Come on then," he whispered. "Follow the fire." From the shelter, Sari watched the red light through a crack in the wall. She held her breath. She knew what that light meant. He was trying to save her, again. Then she heard them move fast, like shadows, roaring like monsters. They chased him. The sound faded into the distance. And Sari was alone once again. He ran toward death. just to give a child a chance at life. Jackson's breath came out in sharp bursts, turning into steam as he sprinted through the deep snow. Every step was heavy. Every breath burned behind him. The howls grew louder. Something massive was chasing him. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. He could hear it fast, four-legged, snarling. He turned sharply between frozen rocks, jumped over a fallen tree, and slid down a slope. His flare was out, but his footprints were clear. That was the plan. Let them follow him. Not the girl. Suddenly the ground cracked beneath him. Snap! He dropped, falling into a frozen pit hidden by snow. Ice stabbed into his shoulder as he hit the bottom hard. He groaned, pain shooting through his arm. He tried to move, but the cold bit deeper now. He looked up. No way out. Then a shadow appeared above. Not a beast. Figure, watching, tall, silent. Jackson reached for his weapon. The figure disappeared. The hunter had seen him, but it wasn't attacking. It was waiting, like it knew he couldn't climb out. It was enjoying the fear. Jackson's heart pounded. He wasn't afraid to die, but not before saving her. Not before finishing this. He activated his emergency beacon again. Still no signal. Then he did something strange. He smiled. Come on then, he growled to the empty sky. You came all this way. Let's dance. He pulled a thermal grenade from his belt and rolled it to the top of the pit. Boom. A flash of heat and fire erupted. The ice cracked more. The snow above caved in, and with it, the hunter fell. Jackson rolled aside as the beast dropped beside him. It was huge. Its eyes glowed green. Its skin looked like metal and bone. Its teeth were too many. Jackson raised his weapon and fired. Once. Twice. The beast screamed. It lunged. Jackson dodged, barely. The claws missed his throat by inches. He rolled and grabbed a sharpened rod from his pack. As the beast came again, he shoved the rod deep into its mouth. Crunch. The beast collapsed, breathing hard. Jackson pushed it off and crawled up through the broken snow. Above, the night was still dark, but the chase was over, for now. Back at the shelter, Sari sat in silence. She hugged herself tight, staring at the heater. Its glow now weak. The human was gone. The only one who came for her. What if they caught him? What if he never came back? Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them fast. No crying, she told herself. Mama said. No weakness. Suddenly a sound. She froze. The door opened slowly. Snow blew in, and there he was. Jackson. Covered in blood, breathing hard, but alive. He shut the door behind him and collapsed to one knee. Sari ran to him. You're hurt. He smiled weakly. They're worse. She helped him sit down. His shoulder was bleeding, his clothes torn. She grabbed clean cloth and tried to stop the bleeding. You came back, she whispered. Of course I did, he said. On your fire, remember? Her eyes filled again, but this time with something warmer. Hope. Later that night, Jackson cleaned his wound and checked the scanner again. Still no signal. Still no help, but they were alive. Sari sat close beside him now. She didn't hide anymore. She looked up at him. Why do you help me? I'm just a small alien. Jackson looked at her seriously. You're not just anything. You're someone. You're worth saving. She blinked. No one ever said that to me before. He placed a hand gently on her head. Well, now someone has. But outside, in the distance, more red eyes blinked in the dark. The hunt was not over. Not yet. The dream came like a ghost wrapped in snow. Sari stood in a wide white room. The walls were ice. The floor was ice. Even the air felt frozen. But in front of her warm light glowed. A woman stood there, tall and proud, with blue skin like hers, and golden rings in her hair. She wore a long robe with stars stitched into the fabric. Mama? Sari whispered. The woman turned slowly and smiled. My little light, she said. Don't let them bury you. Suddenly, black shadows fell from above, covering the stars, the robe, the warmth. And then, she was alone again. Sari opened her eyes. The dream faded, but the words remained. Don't let them bury you. Jackson sat nearby, tightening the bandages around his shoulder. The heater was barely working now. They had food for one more day. No signal. No rescue, but still alive. He glanced at Sari. She hadn't spoken since the flare trap. Her eyes were distant. Her hands kept drawing in the frost on the wall, symbols he didn't understand. He finally spoke. Sari, who were those things hunting? You? She didn't look up. Instead, she said something else. You think I'm just a girl? Jackson blinked. No, I think you're strong, brave, and hunted for no reason. She turned toward him. Her eyes looked older now, sadder. They have a reason. Jackson leaned in. Then tell me, I'm still here, aren't I? Sari nodded slowly. Then she whispered, I'm not just a child. I'm the last daughter of the Iceburn Empire. Jackson froze. Iceburn? Sari stood up and walked to the edge of the room. She pulled a piece of metal from under the crate, something she had hidden. A broken badge with an ancient symbol. A crest made of stars and snowflakes wrapped around a flame. My people ruled 5 systems, she said. Softly. We were powerful, but our enemies feared our bloodline. So they tried to end it. Jackson understood now. They didn't just want to kill you, they wanted to erase you. Sari nodded. My mother escaped with me. We lived in hiding. She told me if anything happened to her, I must never tell anyone who I am. Jackson frowned. Then why tell me? She looked him straight in the eye. Because you came back. For a moment, the silence between them felt warm, but it didn't last. Because outside, something else had arrived. Far above in the hidden ship, a group of cold-eyed aliens stared at the readings. Confirmed. Blood signature is active. The girl has awakened. A dark figure stepped forward. Prepare the stasis cage. This time the human dies first. Inside the shelter, Jackson stood and looked through the scanner. He could feel it in his gut, something was coming. I need to get you out of here, he said. Sari shook her head. There's nowhere left to run. Jackson crouched in front of her. Maybe not for you, but for us. Sari's eyes widened. Us? He smiled gently. I didn't survive this long just to give up now. Suddenly a deep rumble shook the ground. Jackson grabbed his weapon. What was that? Sari looked terrified. They found the underground vault. Jackson narrowed his eyes. What vault? She swallowed hard. The last place my mother left something for me. A memory. A truth. Before Jackson could ask, the ground split. A hidden tunnel opened beneath the shelter. Ice broke away, revealing a stairway glowing faint blue. Sari stood, slowly staring down into it. She told me I would know when the time came. Jackson looked at her. Then I guess it's time. And together, they stepped into the ice. Not knowing what waited below. But knowing above them, death was coming. The walls of ice began to sing. As Jackson and Sari stepped deeper into the glowing stairway beneath the frozen earth. Soft vibrations moved through the walls like music played by ghosts. Each step they took lit the floor below their feet, casting blue light upward. Sari walked in silence, her hand gently brushing the frozen wall. Then the music stopped. They had reached the bottom. It wasn't a room. It was a chamber of memories. Crystal walls shimmered with images, moving scenes trapped in light. A younger version of Sari appeared in one. A tall alien woman held her close and whispered something. Jackson realized it was her mother. Sari walked closer and placed her palm on the ice. The wall responded. A soft voice echoed through the chamber. If you are hearing this, my little light, I am gone. Jackson bowed his head with respect. The mother's voice continued. You carry the last blood of the Iceburn. That is power, that is danger, but more than that, it is hope. One day, someone kind will find you. If they do, trust them. Trust the one who brings fire. Jackson's eyes widened. He looked at Sari. She whispered, "She meant you." Before Jackson could respond, the ground shook. A blinding red light filled the stairway. A voice boomed from above. "This is Commander Vel of the Erasin Syndicate. You are surrounded. Surrender the girl, or we burn this place to ash." Sari trembled. "They're going to destroy the chamber. They want to erase the truth." Jackson loaded his weapon. "They can try." Above ground, sleek black dropships hovered in the sky. Flames from their engines turned the snow to steam. Soldiers in spiked armor marched through the storm, forming a circle around the area. The sky itself burned red. Fire in the sky. Commander Vel stepped forward, his face hidden behind a silver mask. "No more running," he said coldly. He raised his hand. "Bring the cage." Below, Jackson looked at Sari. "There's no way out, is there?" She shook her head. "Not unless we take the vault's core crystal." Jackson blinked. "What does it do?" She pointed to the glowing heart of the chamber. "It's the memory of my people, their voices, their laws. If it's destroyed, my people are lost forever." Jackson looked at her, eyes serious. "Then we don't let that happen." Sari hesitated. "But if we take it, this whole place will collapse." Jackson smiled faintly. "Then we run fast." They pulled the core crystal. The chamber screamed. Ground shook. Ice began to fall from the ceiling. The stairway behind them started to close. "Go!" Jackson shouted, grabbing Sari's hand. They ran. Behind them, the chamber cracked and broke. Lights died. Memories faded, but the crystal pulsed in Sari's arms alive. They burst from the tunnel just as fire rained from above. Explosions lit the sky. Soldiers turned. Shocked. Jackson charged forward. He threw smoke grenades, fired wildly, and grabbed cover behind a fallen ship wing. Sari ran behind him, shielding the crystal. Commander Vel stepped down from his platform. "You are nothing human. That girl is property of the Erasin Syndicate." Jackson stood slowly, aiming his weapon. "She's a person." Vel raised his hand. One by one, the soldiers aimed at Jackson. Then Sari stepped forward, holding the glowing crystal. Her voice rose clear and strong. "I am Sari of the Iceburn, daughter of Queen Lyra. You have no right to me." The soldiers hesitated. Even Vel paused. "You were supposed to be dead," he growled. Sari stepped beside Jackson. "I was, but this human lit the fire again." Vel aimed his weapon, "So I'll put it out." Just then, a loud blast came from the sky. Everyone looked up. A massive human ship broke through the clouds. UN's rescue aid. Responding to Jackson's long-lost signal. It fired once clean and loud. Vel's forces scattered. The fire in the sky was no longer the enemy's. It was hope. Jackson laughed. Exhausted. "You see that, Sari? Told you someone would answer." She smiled. "You kept me alive long enough to see it." Snow melted slowly, but not from the sun. It melted because of fire. Not just the fire from weapons or explosions, but the quiet fire of hope, of someone who came back, of a promise kept, and a hand held tight in the middle of a storm. The battle was over. Commander Vel's ship was gone. His soldiers scattered like ash in the wind. The human rescue team had landed, carrying stretchers, blankets, and warm food. But Sari didn't look at them. She only looked at the man beside her, blood on his coat, tired eyes, and a crooked smile. Jackson Wells, the human who had been her. Fire, wrapped in a thick thermal blanket. Sari sat on the ship's ramp as medics treated Jackson's shoulder. He winced, but didn't complain. "You really don't like staying still, do you?" she asked. He chuckled. "Only when there's someone to protect." She looked down, fingers tight around the glowing crystal, the last memory of her people. "Because of you, the Iceburns still live." Jackson looked at her. "Because of you, I still believe in something." Sari blinked. Believe in what? He smiled. Family. Later, inside the human ship, Sari stood in a clean hallway, nervous and quiet. A kind nurse had tried to take the crystal for testing, but she held it tighter and shook her head. One of the rescue officers approached Jackson with a question. What's her full name? For records? Jackson glanced at Sari. She looked up, unsure. He smiled gently. Sari Wells, he said. She blinked. That's your name. It's yours now too, he said softly. Tears filled her eyes. You mean I'm not just someone you rescued? He crouched beside her. No, you're someone I chose to keep. She dropped the crystal and wrapped her arms around him. And for the first time in her life, Sari didn't feel cold. Weeks later, Earth, the wind was warm. The sky was blue. The trees danced softly in the sun. In a small cabin near the forest, Jackson stood by a fire pit, cooking something strange but delicious. Careful, he said. Human food can be spicy. Sari sat on a wooden chair, now wearing a bright sweater and shoes that actually fit. She took a bite and smiled. It tastes like stars. Jackson raised an eyebrow. You say that about everything. She laughed, and he laughed with her. Inside the cabin, the crystal rested in a small glass case, glowing softly. Beside it, a photo. Sari and Jackson, standing side by side, smiling. The last iceborn. And the human who became her warmth.